Okay. Channel 2, we ready?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Okay, I'm Joe Calderoni. I'm the Senior VP for Communications here at Mount Sinai South Nassau. Thanks for joining us here today for our Truth in Medicine poll result media briefing. We have a really good topic for you today. Welcome to all our viewers on Facebook today as well. I just want to introduce our panel members. We have Dr. Rob Sharma. Dr. Sharma is our Chief Medical Officer and our Executive Vice President of Clinical and Professional Affairs. Dr. Aaron Glatt, who is also with us. He's the Chair of our Department of Medicine. He also is a Clinical Professor of Medicine at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And Janet Con-Scalero is also with us down the end. Janet, say hi. Janet is our administrative director of our behavioral health and family medicine services. She oversees our behavioral health program, which actually includes about 50 social workers, psychologists, nurse practitioners, and physicians. Here at Mount Sinai South Nassau, we actually see about 3,000 patients annually here in Baldwin and in Oceanside, and that's everything from counseling services and up to and including inpatient treatment. More from Janet, who is our expert on that later. And Dana Sandeman is also with us. Dana is the Executive Director of Public Affairs here at Mount Sinai South Nassau, and she's the Director of our Truth in Medicine poll, and she'll be walking through the poll results today. This is actually our 10th Truth in Medicine poll. Other topics that we've delved into in previous polls are people's attitudes towards the flu, going to work with the flu, their attitudes about vaccinations and legalization of recreational marijuana, also their attitudes about vaping, HPV, and antibiotic use and misuse, and supplements, to name just a few of the public health topics that we have covered here at Mount Sinai South Nassau. I also want to just briefly thank our sponsor, Beth Page, for underwriting this poll. And we have some very good news. Next year, Beth Page has agreed once again to be our sponsor for the poll. We do 3 of these public health polls per year, and we really couldn't do it without the great folks at Beth Page. So we're very grateful to them for seeing the value in this public health poll and underwriting the cost of it. And just a quick note on the methodology. We have a group here. Dr. Sharma and Dr. Glatt serve on the clinical leadership group that comes up with the topics and help devise the poll questions. But the poll itself is conducted by a professional polling company, LJR Custom Strategies, and we rely on them to conduct it in a way that is statistically significant. And it's about 600 folks that they interview. They use landlines and cell phone lines. This poll was conducted in early November, 6th to the 11th. And again, there is, of course, a margin of error as with any poll, but we certainly appreciate the professionalism of our polling outfit. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dana, who's going to walk through some of the results from this poll that we've conducted on stress, what causes stress during the holidays included, and during non-holiday periods. We think it's a very timely topic. So Dana?
Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving. So overall, in our area, which is Long Island and New York City, people are stressed. 31% of people in our area have high or very high levels of stress, and that stress is only elevated during the holidays. So 46% of people that we polled have high or very high stress levels around the holidays. What causes the most stress? So we gave them a variety of reasons. The 2 top causes of stress are finances and family. But really, most people said all factors, finances, family, overscheduling, overeating, and shopping, caused stress. And when we looked a little bit at the demographics, Black respondents reported an overall stress level notably higher, so 48% more than whites at 28% and Hispanic at 25%. And residents of New York City were a little bit more stressed than residents of Long Island. And this is just to show you the percentages. So overall stress versus stress around the holidays. And of those people who were stressed, 66% of people did feel that stress impacted their health. And this is just to show you all of the factors that we asked about with stress and what percentage of respondents felt that each factor really increased their stress. And as you can see, financial, or really all factors cause stress. Now, as a working mother myself, under the age of 50 with 2 small children, I can definitely tell you that women under 50 are the most stressed around the holidays. I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my house on Wednesday. I have my kids off from school tomorrow. These types of things just really, on an everyday basis, cause stress, but when you add in the additional stress of the holidays, it causes more stress. So people in my age group, so women under the age of 50, 1 in 5 of these women turn to alcohol or drugs to relieve stress. And we didn't go into the specifics about how many drinks or what kind of drugs, but they did say that they turned to alcohol or drugs. So 61% of these women, 61% of women under the age of 50, say that their stress level is high or very high as the holiday approached, compared to 41% of men in that same age group. You can just see it on the chart here. So overall holiday stress, 46%. Men are at 41% and women are at 61%. People who are not stressed around the holidays, they showed no increase in their stress level, were people 65 and up, so either not working, never worked, or retired. We also polled about stress in the workplace and at home, and work-related stress was high or very high among 48% of our residents. Women overall, not surprising again, are more stressed at work than men. So this goes back to the previous point. Women who work are stressed at the holidays and they're more stressed at work than men. When we asked specifically what causes the most stress, 36% said workload was the biggest source of stress, and the second was work-life balance. The lowest levels of stress, when you looked at the holidays, work, and home, people were the least stressed at home, which we thought was a little bit surprising. Again, this was just our chart, and people could choose their top 2, but a lot of people chose everything, that everything at work causes stress. Workload is the number 1, though. So most importantly with our poll is our public health message and what we're trying to share with our community about public health. And 66% of people felt that this stress impacted their health, which is significant. 31% said no. So I'm going to let our experts come up and just speak a little bit more about the impact on your health and what's healthy stress versus not healthy stress. And then Janet's going to go into a little bit about when to seek help and what type of help you can seek. So I'd just like to bring Dr. Sharma up.
Thanks, Dana. So let's talk about stress. Stress is a normal feature of every living experience of every species. Humans are not exempt. And that means we're supposed to have stress. It's part of our evolution. But normal stress would have been finding food, staying alive, shelter, staying away from animals that might prey on you. But given our spot in the food chain, we don't have those concerns for the most part. Our concerns are maintaining our mortgage so we have shelter, earning enough to be able to put food on the table, and then everything associated with the functions that we do to get those finances secured, so typically our job. And stress can manifest in many ways. We're going to hear about that in a few minutes. But the level of stress is supposed to be maintained at what we would call normal. And in our survey, we asked people, we didn't ask them if they had no stress, we said normal. Because everybody experiences stress on a daily basis. We all know that. It could be a traffic jam or a problem with a sick child, let's say. But those types of stresses are temporary and they usually don't last, and our body adjusts to that very quickly. It's when stress becomes a chronic problem that we can have a whole host of issues arise, both physiologic, so we'll hear about some of the effects on the body, and also psychological, we'll hear about the effects on the mind. So how people deal with stress is very important. And we ask questions about techniques you can use to reduce stress, but specifically exercising, friends, family, religion, you'll see all those were asked. And what we found is people usually rely on exercise as a way to get some of their stress reduced. Despite that, a large number of people still had a high amount of stress. Around the holidays, almost half of the people responded very high to high levels of stress, which would suggest exercise alone is probably not enough. And so we'll hear a little bit about why counseling may be helpful and when it should be considered. Finally, people do react differently to stress. So there are people who never seem stressed. That doesn't mean they have zero stress. It just means they're very good at internalizing their stress. And then there are people who they just seem like they're stressed out all the time, and they seem like they're very overt about their stress symptoms. And in many ways, that's actually somewhat helpful, because if you recognize your stress and you express it, it actually does reduce some of your stress just by saying, I'm stressed. It's amazing. And both types of people, and there's people obviously in between, but both types of people still experience stress and still need to manage their stress. And why is stress dangerous? So stress is our body's experience to external stimulus, or internal stimulus sometimes, and our hormones that are related to our survival. Maybe you've heard of fight or flight. It's the same type of hormones, and what our hormone levels are doing in our body at the time of stress. If those hormone levels are maintained at a high level, they can cause damage. We're going to hear about that. They're designed to protect us, they're designed to help us, but they're not designed to be elevated on an ongoing daily basis at very high levels. So to talk about stress, the effect of stress on the body, Dr. Glatt, our chairman of medicine, is going to give us some examples and also talk about how it manifests in different people. Dr. Glatt?
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you, Dana. This is, again, a very important poll that I think has important results for people to be aware of. As Dr. Sharma mentioned, the fight or flight response is something that's innately built into our bodies to prepare us to either deal with a potential serious risk that's about to face us, either to allow us to face it directly or to run away from that. And that will cause your body to release various messengers, hormones, catecholamines, all sorts of chemicals that will tell different parts of your body, you better react, you better be prepared to react. That will cause elevations in your blood pressure, that will shunt blood away from less essential parts of the body towards what are now more essential parts of the body, and this will have physical impact on what a person feels and does at that moment in time. So this is great if you're running and you're going to be running away from a large prey, an animal that's coming to attack you. So you're going to run away and you seek shelter and safety, and then you can calm down. But if this type of a stress is 24 hours a day, or at least during the work hours, or during several weeks of time in preparations for the holidays or for some personal important event in your life, so this can have a more significant impact on your body's health. And this can lead to elevations in your blood pressure that can be chronic and can be difficult to address without taking medication sometimes. This can impact your ability to function from a neurological, mental point of view. You may have difficulty doing calculations. You may have difficulty doing various types of thought processes. You may have difficulty concentrating, difficulty putting pen to paper, putting together a product at work. And all of these things only add to the stress and make it more likely that you're going to have a continued release of these catecholamines and a continued physiological change in your body that can be detrimental if it's on a long-term basis. And these are just some of the impacts that I'm touching upon that a person can feel and both have laboratory proof that they are under great stress and, in fact, hurting their health potentially if something isn't done about it. Unfortunately, there are many different techniques and ways that you can address this type of stress without getting to medicinal or actual treatments from a physician or from a mental health practitioner. And most people on their own recognize this, and the expression, take a deep breath. Calm yourself, relax yourself. So that is one of the many ways that the body tries to reduce that stress level, to power down. You can't be in a fully charged state at all time, and your body needs to power down and, quote, relax. There are many different techniques, yoga, meditation, that people have looked to help get through that. And many people exercise, as our study showed, because that's a good, healthy way to release stress. People go into a gym and they go box and they take out their stress on the beanbag. So all of these are ways that a person can go and address stress. There are hormones and other synthetic chemicals that your body produces when you're doing certain types of activities that can be soothing. You can release the equivalent of opiates in your own body that can reduce the stress and make you feel calm. People get a high when they run. So all of these are ways that a person can naturally, through healthy, normal, physiological ways, reduce the stress. Unfortunately, people sometimes seek either a quicker or what they think might be a easier way to release the stress, which is going for either illicit or illegal substances that can have detrimental effects. And many people, quote, need a drink to relax, or they need to smoke marijuana, or they need to take some other medication, either illicit or illegal medication, but they need that in order to go and reduce their stress levels. And this can, of course, obviously be somewhat more dangerous than going out for a 5-kilometer run. And therefore, each person has to realize that handling stress in those less than optimal ways can actually be a serious spiral downward. And when you need that drink, you need that medication, you need that drug in order to calm down, so that unfortunately is one of the signs that you're in trouble and that you really need to seek help in some way or other from either a professional, or what many people do is they seek it out from friends and religious groups and other community social events can be a wonderful way to help release stress and not need to go to the much more dangerous types of recreational substance use that is associated with much more serious problems. Religion, social, friends are all wonderful, healthy ways to release stress. And again, many of the respondents in our study showed that those were, on their own, ways that they realized were very helpful in relieving stress. When none of those work, or when you're running into trouble with usage of medications, illicit, legal, alcohol, marijuana, so then a healthcare professional, especially one who's especially attuned to treating mental health issues, is probably the next step that people should be looking at. And many people in our study said that wasn't a concern that they had, but I suspect that the study isn't as 100% accurate in that respect, because many people would be a little bit reluctant to sometimes admit that they have either sought out a mental health professional or would like to seek one out. And we're fortunate to have with us a senior, a very knowledgeable mental health professional, and we'll ask her now to come up and speak to us.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. So as my colleagues have said, stress is an inevitable and normal part of our lives. How we handle that stress, how we perceive that stress, goes a long way to how we react to it. So when a person is paralyzed by stress, when their thoughts about the source of the stress become intensified, when they avoid things in order to manage stress, these are all signs and warning signs that they might require a bit more in the way of assistance. Unfortunately, as Dr. Sharma was saying, many times people do not seek help until it's advanced beyond the point where they are functioning optimally. At that point, oftentimes we urge people to get help. Here at Mount Sinai South Nassau, we see it a little bit differently. We see preventive care as a mental health issue just as it is a physical health issue. We don't have to have people wait until they're so stressed out that they're not functioning optimally. They're paralyzed by their stress. Therapy in the past has had a stigma, and part of that stigma is the kinds of people who need help are not as strong, not as capable as those who seek help. Those are weaker people. We work very diligently to dispute that myth. That is a myth. Therapy, also, the myth of therapy is that it's long-term. It takes a long time. It takes years, months. It's expensive. We really feel that getting someone help when they need it, where they need it, and how they need it is our most crucial mission. So we provide mental health services in doctors' offices, in the behavioral health center, in integrated care offices, because where people come when they tell their family physician that they're feeling stressed out, that they can't sleep, that they might be drinking a bit too much, or they might be dreading the holidays a bit too much, or conversely, they feel so keyed up that they can't stop. They feel too keyed up inside. Those are the times and the places where short-term interventions are most successful and most helpful. 1-2 sessions can help somebody learn really effective ways to manage stress, and not to manage the source of the stress, but to manage their reactivity to that stress. So we feel very strongly that those things at Mount Sinai South Nassau are available. We do have a phone number, one-stop shopping phone number that people can call. I believe Dana's going to put up the slide. Thank you. And for mental health services and integrated services at Mount Sinai South Nassau, you can call 377-5400, and someone will speak to you. A professional will speak to you and help guide you through the process. If you need to see a physician, you can call 632-3936, and we will refer you to a physician. Although 84% of people said, no, I'm not considering counseling, I think that underestimates the people that can benefit from the service. And if we continue to talk about it and to lower the stigma, perhaps more people will seek services before it becomes a crisis. So I'm going to give the mic back to Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet and Dr. Glatt and Dr. Sharma. Any questions from press, or you do it later? Yeah. Okay. Dr. Sharma, did you want to add something? Did you want to?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's interesting that one important thing about hobbies as a source of stress reduction, hobbies are split into two parts, passive and active. And what they found is passive hobbies don't help. So people who watch TV, play video games, do things like that, that's a passive hobby. It doesn't reduce stress. But active hobbies like, interestingly, reading, listening to music, or any kind of recreational activity or model building, those kinds of things, those active hobbies, they actually reduce stress. So it's interesting that you would think music is a passive hobby, but I guess there's something else going on in the brain with music that qualifies it as an active hobby. That's an important distinction to make for those who are interested in hobbies as a stress-reducing technique.
Very good. So if anybody has no questions, we'll wrap it up. Again, I want to thank our panel members, and they'll be here for a little while longer to answer any questions that the press may have. All right, I thank our Facebook audience, and we'll see you next time.